Hello, everyone. Today, I want to share with you something that I'm sure will resonate deeply with every executive watching this video. I'll start with a quote I heard a few weeks ago from a CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company. "I have data, I have reports, but I still don't know what's really going wrong or where to start." Does this frustration sound familiar? Because I've had the opportunity to speak with hundreds of executives in recent months, and this feeling of sailing blind, of being drowned in information but thirsty for knowledge, is practically universal. We are experiencing what I call the silent crisis of modern business. A crisis that doesn't make any noise, that doesn't make headlines, but that is reducing the productivity and competitiveness of organizations day after day. What is the most obvious symptom? We have access to more data than ever before in human history, yet we make worse decisions. We have reports that reach the ceiling, but lack the intelligence to connect the dots. We have departments full of brilliant people, but working in silos, each with their own version. And here comes the most paradoxical thing. While we struggle in this sea of confusing data, there are companies that are using artificial intelligence not only to survive this crisis, but to thrive like never before. Companies that have discovered that AI is not just for automating repetitive tasks, but for completely transforming the way they understand and manage their organizations. Let's be clear. The reality of your company today probably looks a lot like this. 84% of your management team's time is wasted searching for relevant data. Not working on strategy, not innovating, not leading, searching for information that should be just a click away. And you know what's worse? When they finally find that data, they discover there are 4 different versions of the same critical file circulating simultaneously between departments. The finance version says one thing, the operations version says another, and the sales version, well, sales has its own magic numbers. And this isn't a problem of poorly organized companies. It's a systemic problem. It's the consequence of growing rapidly, adopting technology without a strategy, and solving specific problems with isolated solutions. The typical mid-sized company today has 50,000 to 200,000 digital documents with no coherent structure, 8 to 12 different systems that don't talk to each other, critical information spread across 15 to 30 key people, and invaluable knowledge that has never been documented because it's always been in John's head, until John decides to leave. And this is where many managers make a fatal mistake. They think the problem is technological, that buying the next miracle software will fix everything. But no, my friends, the problem isn't technological. The problem is human. It's the inability of our limited minds to process the complexity we've created. Remember the story of the Tower of Babel? Well, we've recreated it in our own companies, but with data. Each department has built its own system, its own language, its own version of the truth. Finance lives in its tower of Excel macros and SAP. Operations has its MES that doesn't talk to anyone. Sales fiercely protects its CRM or ERP as if it were the Holy Grail. And human resources, well, no one knows exactly where HR lives. The result? 87% inconsistencies between systems, decisions based on erroneous data in 31% of cases, and an organization that spends more time arguing about which version of the numbers is correct than making decisions based on those numbers. But here's the worst part. This fragmentation is not only inefficient, it's dangerous. Because when a crisis hits, and they will, believe me, there is no unified view of reality. Each department sees its part of the elephant, but no one sees the whole elephant. And in a world where decisions must be made in hours, not weeks, sailing blindly isn't just costly, it can be lethal. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Because while we continue to struggle with our digital towers of Babel, a new way of tackling this problem has emerged. It's not about tearing down the towers. It's about building intelligent bridges between them thanks to artificial intelligence. Now I want us to think about something that particularly hurts family businesses and long-established organizations, the knowledge that is lost when key people decide to leave. In the typical company, between 15 and 30 people hold critical knowledge. I'm not talking about data you can find in a report. I'm talking about the knowledge that resides in the heads of people who have been with the company for 20 years. The people who know why they need to negotiate with that specific supplier, the people who remember why that process has been done this way since 1998, the people who know the preferences of each important client, This is what I call the organization's unspoken gold. And here comes the problem. When these people leave, whether due to retirement, a better offer, or simply because they're tired, they take all that knowledge with them. And do you know how much it costs to rebuild that knowledge? Between 4 and 7 years. Yes, you heard right. Years of trial and error, of relationships that need to be rebuilt, of lessons that need to be relearned. But here comes the most painful part. We often don't even realize what we've lost until it's too late. Because this implicit knowledge doesn't appear on any balance sheet, it doesn't appear in any annual report. You can't guarantee it. But it is, without a doubt, one of your company's most valuable assets. And this, my friends, is where artificial intelligence can do something that humans alone can't. Capture, systematize, and preserve this implicit knowledge before it's lost forever. Not to replace people, but to ensure that their wisdom remains in the organization even when they decide to take another path. Let's talk about money. Because at the end of the day, all the problems we've described have a very real, very measurable, very painful cost. When you sail blind, you pay a price in 5 dimensions. First, lost opportunities. That big customer who goes to the competition because no one in your organization saw their dissatisfaction. That product innovation that never made it to market on time. That acquisition you didn't make because you didn't have complete information to make the decision. Second, recurring problems. That same mistake you make over and over again because there's no institutional memory. That process that breaks down every quarter for the same reason. That customer who's been complaining about the same thing for years. Third, underutilized talent. That brilliant employee you never discovered because their skills aren't listed on their HR profile. That team that could be 10 times more productive if you knew how to leverage them. Fourth, eternal consultants. That external consultant who spends 6 months understanding your context while charging you a fortune. And when they finally understand your business, they leave with all the knowledge you paid them to learn. And fifth, decision paralysis. That meeting after meeting where the same thing is discussed without reaching any conclusion. That project that never gets off the ground because no one has enough data to justify it. And do you know how much all this costs? In the average company, we're talking hundreds of thousands of euros a year. Money that's going down the drain, not because you don't have information, but because you can't turn that information into action. But here's where the good news comes in. Because there is a way to transform this reality, not in years, not in months, in weeks, and with a measurable, tangible, real return on investment. And here we come to the million-dollar question. Is there another way? Is there a smarter way to transform a company from within, without relying on individual geniuses, without losing knowledge when people leave, without having to hire armies of consultants who will take months to understand your business? The answer is yes. And it's not just a theoretical answer. It's a reality that is already transforming companies like yours. Imagine for a moment having a team of digital specialists working 24/7, analyzing every aspect of your business. Not a generalist who knows a little bit of everything, but true experts. A financial analyst who has seen thousands of companies like yours. A process expert who knows every possible improvement. A strategist who can predict the outcomes of every decision. Imagine having a complete 360-degree picture of your organization in just 72 hours. Not weeks of interviews, not months of analysis. 72 hours to gain complete clarity on what's working, what's not, and what you need to improve. Imagine having a concrete, prioritized action plan with guaranteed ROI, ready to execute in 30 days. Not theories, not abstract concepts, specific actions that generate measurable results from the first month. This isn't science fiction. It's IMIA, Intelligent Multi-Agent Business Intervention, and it's working right now in companies that, 6 months ago, were exactly where you are today. Let me use a medical analogy, because at its core, transforming a business isn't very different from treating a complex patient. When you have a serious health problem, who do you go to? Your general practitioner or the hospital's team of specialists? A general practitioner is excellent. They've known you for years, understand your history, and give you a reasonably good diagnosis. But they have limitations. They can spend 15 minutes with you, They know the basics of many things, but aren't experts in anything specific, and when they're faced with something complex, they refer you. Now imagine that instead, you have instant access to a full team of specialists. A cardiologist who studies your heart with state-of-the-art ultrasounds, a nephrologist who analyzes your kidneys with tests that general practitioners don't even know exist, an endocrinologist who studies your hormones with genetic analysis, and they all work together, sharing information in real time to give you a complete diagnosis and a coordinated treatment plan. That's exactly the difference between traditional interim management and IMIA. Traditional interim management is like that general practitioner, a brilliant person with a lot of experience, but with natural human limitations. They may see you 8 hours a day, need weeks to understand your context. Their analysis is limited by their individual capacity, and when they leave, they take all the knowledge you paid for them to learn with them. IMIA, on the other hand, is like having that team of digital specialists working 24/7. It's not a person, it's a multi-agent artificial intelligence system where each agent is an expert in a specific area. Capture agents, specialists in finding and organizing disparate information. Diagnostic agents, experts in identifying patterns and root causes. Planning agents, masters in designing executable roadmaps. Execution agents, coordinators who ensure things get done. Monitoring agents, watchdogs who measure progress in real time. And here's the key. While traditional interim management analyzes things sequentially, first finance, then operations, then human resources, our agents work simultaneously. In the same 72 hours that a traditional interim manager needs to fundamentally understand your business, IMIA has completed a deep analysis of all aspects of your organization and identified the interconnections that a single analysis would never reveal. But the real revolution isn't just in speed or depth, it's in sustainability. Because when traditional interim management leaves, it takes 70–80% of the knowledge it generated with it. With IMIA, 95% of the knowledge remains within the organization, systematized, accessible to all, and part of the permanent institutional memory. And here we come to the moment of truth. Because after everything we've talked about, an inevitable question arises. Is your company sailing in the dark? This isn't a rhetorical question. It's an invitation to honesty, to face reality head-on. Let me ask you some specific questions. How much time does your management team waste searching for information each week? Don't estimate, calculate. Multiply those hours by the hourly cost of those managers. There, you have the first number of the real cost. How many different versions of the same data circulate throughout your organization? Do you trust the numbers you receive? Or is there always that doubt? Are they up to date? What would happen if one of your key people left tomorrow? I'm not talking about the CEO. I'm talking about that COO who's been with the company for 25 years and knows exactly why every process is the way it is. How long would it take for the organization to recover? How many opportunities have you missed in the last year due to a lack of comprehensive vision? That acquisition you didn't make because no one had all the data. That product you launched late because departments weren't aligned. That big client that left without anyone seeing the signal coming. If any of these questions have gotten you thinking, then you're ready for the next step, because here's the good news. You don't have to keep going like this. Sailing blind isn't your destiny. Knowledge loss isn't inevitable. Decisions don't have to be made with partial information. IMIA offers something no other system can: immediate clarity, concrete action, and measurable results from the first month. What does this mean in practice? It means having a complete diagnosis of your organization in 72 hours, not months. A diagnosis that not only identifies problems, but also prioritizes solutions based on impact and feasibility. It means having a 30, 60, 90-day action plan with concrete steps, assigned managers, and projected ROI for each action. It means transferring 95% of the knowledge generated to the organization, not losing it when the consultant leaves. It means a 280% return on investment in the first 90 days, measured with real KPIs, not marketing metrics. But more important than all the numbers, it means stopping sailing in the dark. It means that when you wake up tomorrow morning, you'll know exactly what's working in your organization, what isn't, and what you need to improve. It means your teams will stop wasting time searching for information and start spending that time creating value. It means decisions will be based on complete, up-to-date, and consistent data. The silent crisis doesn't have to be your reality. The digital Tower of Babel can become a cathedral of well-organized knowledge. The implicit gold can be captured and preserved for future generations of your company. The future of business management isn't bigger, it's smarter. It's not more complex, it's clearer. It's not more expensive, it's more profitable. And that future is IMIA. Thank you for your time. It has been a privilege to share these few minutes with you, which, I hope, have opened your eyes to a possibility that many didn't even know existed. But now comes the important part. This is when the ball is in your court, because the information I've shared with you today is useless if it stays here. Real transformation doesn't come from listening to a video, it comes from taking the first step. So here's what I propose. If what you've heard today has made you think, if you've recognized your company in any of the problems I've described, if you felt that pang of, "This is us," then you have two options. Option 1. Skip to the next video on the list, where I'll delve into how IMIA has transformed specific companies like yours with real numbers, real cases, and real results. Option 2. Take the leap right now. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn. My profile will be in the description, and start a real conversation about how we can apply this to your specific company. I just want to understand your situation, answer your questions, and if you think it's appropriate, talk about how to get started. The transformation I've described today isn't for every company, but if your company is like the one I've described, if you're sailing blindly, if you're missing opportunities due to a lack of vision, if knowledge is slipping through the cracks in your organization, then maybe it's time to stop sailing and start leading. I'll leave it in your hands. The silent crisis can remain your reality, or it can become the story of how you decided to change the course of your company. Thank you for your attention. See you on LinkedIn or in the next video. The decision is yours.